This has been a long time. I done one of these, so it's kind of weird.
It has been a while, too long, in my opinion.
Yeah, it has been. All right.
Said that weird.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Season 2 of Devote 101. Yes, things are going to be a little bit different this season. I am your host, Nathaniel Donaldson, and here I have with me is now my co-host, my lovely wife, Andrea Donaldson. Last time you were on the podcast, you were Andrea Gates, and it's been a few years since that podcast, let's be honest. So, we're going to be doing it like this from now on, and maybe here and then, get some guests on with either me or Andy and someone. It might just be just me with someone, might be just Andy with someone, might be both of us. We'll just see how this goes. We're just playing around with it just to see what really happens, and I'm very excited about it.
Yep, we're just going to go wherever the Lord leads.
Yes. So, Andy, you have an interesting story, let me tell you, and anytime people try to ask me all the details, I can't actually tell them all because I'm not kidding, it's literally so much.
It is a lot.
To the point to where I can't remember half of the stuff that's going on with you. So, why don't we just...
Imagine having that happen to you.
Right. Oh, yeah, well, I definitely remember then at that point. But,
yeah.
Nobody really knows all the details unless it's happening to you. Every single detail.
Yeah, for sure.
So, why don't we just start from the beginning?
Okay. Well. Okay, so... I'm just going to go ahead and preface this. I'm going to give you a heads up. This is the story of my miracle. Story's not really right. This is the testimony of my miracle. And it is a long story, but I will not go into extreme detail because it is a lot. But I'm going to hit the high points. And that's all you really need to know anyway.
Right.
So, this whole thing started in 2015. And, I thought I was having a heart attack. How old was I? Like 20? Yeah, I was like 20 years old. 6 years.
So, in college.
29. Yeah, no, I was 19. So I was 19. Thought I was having a heart attack. I do have some heart issues, so it was a plausible thing,
Kind of expected.
Yeah, well,
or not really expected.
It could happen. Kind
of like this is a possibility.
Yeah, it could happen. And I mean, my mother passed away when I was 6 years old from. Her heart failed, basically. So it was kind of like, okay, what's going on? First of all, I waited a very long time before I said anything because I was scared. I was 19 years old thinking I'm having a heart attack, Googling symptoms, like what's wrong with me. Little preface, or pro tip, if you think you're having a heart attack, go to the ER immediately. Don't wait. Like I did.
Did you wait?
I waited like 6 hours before I said anything. To my mom and dad.
You had a heart attack and you decided you waited.
Well, I didn't have it was not a heart attack. I thought it was.
Okay, so you thought you were having a heart attack and you were just kind of like, oh, I'll just see what happens.
Well, I was like, maybe it'll go away. I was 19. I was scared. I didn't know what was going on. It was a lot. Like I said, my mom died from her heart, heart stopped beating. I have all of that going through my mind, 19 years old. So I was scared. But anyway, so we went to the ER, and I was not having a heart attack. It's a thing called costochondritis, and it's usually caused by extreme emotional stress. And it's where the cartilage around your breastbone becomes inflamed and swollen, and it feels like you're having a heart attack. It hurts. It's very painful. So the ER doctor was fabulous, and he was like, you know what? follow up with your cardiologist, which I just so happen to have an appointment with in 3 days. Here's some ibuprofen, go on about your business. So, explain everything going on when we get to the cardiologist, all that fun jazz. And it was time for it to have just some regular tests run anyway, like just normal kind of stuff that I have. One of them being a stress test and the other being an echo, and then some their blood work that accompanies a stress test. So you can't do an echo and a stress test on the same day, so it can skew results. So I had stress test done, everything looked great, blood work was normal, like super, couldn't ask for anything better. So 3 days later, go to have an echo, and then after I get done with the echo, they're like, oh, go down for your blood work. And I'm like, blood work? Okay, cool. Like, okay. So I went down, they repeated the blood work, and they weren't supposed to do this. This was the blood work that you get done with the stress test, but they kind of mixed things up, the hospital did, and they repeated it. So, and my blood work was off the charts crazy. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, one level, it went from like, and it's my, the CK, which is indicative of muscle breakdown. It went from like 100 and something, like normal ranges, to like over like 7,000. So, I mean, it jumped up and nothing had happened. So, of course, when you have spikes like that, you're concerned. And then there was major panic and concern from doctors and everything, and they're like, you can't walk more than half a mile a day, you can't move, like, don't do anything, like, until we can get you in. They're afraid that somewhere in my body my muscles are breaking down, and they don't know what kind it is. They don't know if it's my cardiac muscles or they skeletal or like smooth. They don't know what's going on. And so I had so many tests run and all kinds of stuff happening. And then, I had been really tired and like really fatigued before this. And I just kind of attributed that. I was in college, like, a lot going on in my life. But then little by little, I started having other symptoms start popping up. I would lose control of my muscles in my upper body. Like, I'd be carrying something and suddenly they would just give out and I'd drop whatever it was.
Just drop it.
Yeah. So, unfortunately.
What were you thinking at that time? You just kind of like,
I was like, what
muscle give out? Like, what's going on?
I was like, what in the world is going on? Like, what? And,
I know I would just pick it right back up, be like, whatever.
Well, when you have other stuff going on and they're telling you something's wrong with you, it starts getting, you're like,
you start wondering, like,
yeah,
what
it's like, this isn't normal. This isn't,
This is something else that we don't know about.
Yeah, and so all this stuff started happening. They had me keep a really detailed log over, a period of time. And then the pain kind of started. At first, it was kind of like occasional. Maybe once or twice a day, I'd have these shooting pains, like somebody was stabbing me. And that's not even an accurate description. That's just the closest thing I can kind of use to describe it. And I was just progressively getting worse. Like, it wasn't like I was getting better. It was progressively getting worse. And I'm not allowed to walk more than half a mile a day. I'm not allowed to do anything.
This is what they told you, don't do this?
Yeah, so the doctor, they're like, don't do anything because we don't know what's going on. So I,
It must have been frustrating,
Yeah, it was.
Kind of like just sit down and don't do anything.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. I slept a lot because I was exhausted. Getting up out of my bed and walking to my kitchen wore me out. Like, it was just an exhausting period in my life. Wow. If I get emotional, it's emotional for me to discuss. And I'll explain why later, not right now. So we get in with the neurologist. I have all kinds of tests run. Nobody knows what's going on. They're like, what? We don't know. Like, all we can say is you have some kind of hypercikaemia, like, which was that one level. And they're like, we don't know, basically. So at this point, have been going on for about 6 months, 8 months. Well, at this time, like, depression and anxiety really, really, really started setting in, because when you don't know what's going on, and when your body is literally failing you and nobody can tell you why, nobody understands what's going on, it is incredibly frustrating, and it is incredibly depressing to feel hopeless. And that's kind of where I was at. There was just this overwhelming hopelessness that kind of consumed my day to day. And, my mom and dad were very concerned, but didn't really want to let on when anything was wrong. So I really, and there was nothing anybody could do for me. There was no medication that I could take that would help with the pain or anything like that. So, I mean, I really didn't see a point in saying, oh, I'm really in pain today. So, I just kind of didn't really discuss it. We everyone was aware stuff was going on, but didn't really discuss, like, the severity of everything going on with my mom and dad as far as, like, pain or whatever. So I think kind of almost trying to remember when we started
We started talking?
No. Yeah, when did we start dating?
2018.
2018?
Yeah.
So we started coming. Okay, so we started coming to church there in 2017.
Yeah.
Because we were there a full year before.
Right, like a full year before we really started even talked, really.
Yeah. So we just, well, someone invited us to the church I'm at now, Hot UPC. And, well, they actually invited my mom, and she went, and she took my brother and sister. It was like a kid's thing or something. And then, I think, like, the next week, she was like, we're just all going to go or whatever. So we started kind of visiting a little bit, and my mom and dad kind of talked, and my sister and I, we were older, and they were like, we're praying about it, and, we don't know yet, but we might end up switching churches, but whatever you want to do is fine. Like, if you want to stay where you're at, that's okay. If you want to move, that's okay. It's kind of up to you. You're an adult, basically. Well, I was like, there's too much craziness going on in my life. I'm not moving churches. I'm not doing that. Because where we were at it was, the people were great. I was involved. There's a lot of stuff going on. And then there was one night, I don't even remember what Brother Stroud preached on, to be honest with you. Because I was kind of sitting back there with my own, like, in the back row with my own internal struggle, just, me and God we were just conversing. And I remember just feeling like, well, maybe this is where I need to be. And I remember praying. I was like, Lord, if this is where I need to be, then you're going to have to make it abundantly clear. And almost immediately, it's really crazy. Like within the next 30 seconds, it's Nathaniel's sister, my sister-in-law now. She actually came up to me and my sister and was like, do y'all want to go up front and pray? And I was like, sure.
It's kind of shocking because, like, you're, shy self at the time would be like, no.
I didn't really want to. I don't know why I said yes. Well, I do know why I said yes. It was the Lord. But so we go up there, we're praying. And at this point, it is a struggle for me to hold my arms up. And so as we were praying, I had my hands kind of half raised, the little, not really any higher than my shoulders, but, and Diana was praying with us, but two girls came up, and each one of them held up one had one arm and the other had the other arm. And that was the Lord using them to say, hey, I've got you. This is where you need to be. And I just felt it so confirmed in my spirit. And I mean, I was refilled with the Holy Ghost that night. I had been when I was younger, but, I hadn't spoken tongues in years and years and years. And it just, the Lord, he really showed me that is where I needed to be at. And, I mean, obviously, because I met you, and that's, led me to my wonderful husband and all that fun jazz.
It just hurts saying that, doesn't it?
What?
Just hurts saying that, doesn't it?
No.
Wonderful husband.
No, it doesn't. So, but not long after we had started going to Hodge, the neurologist I was seeing at the time, he was like, I've exhausted every resource. Like, there's not much else I can do for you. I cannot give you any answers, and we don't know why this is happening. Our only options are, at the moment, the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. And I was like, well, let's do it.
This is in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, Rochester, Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let's do it. And
just want to clarify that, because I remember when they announced that you were going to be going to Minnesota.
Yeah.
For all that. And at that point, we hadn't even talked, really. I
He
didn't
didn't
know.
like me.
Well, I didn't know the whole situation.
Nobody did.
Not much. I mean,
Yeah.
we just knew that you had some kind of rare thing going on with you, and then that was really it. I mean, that's all we really.
I mean, I guess just I'm a very private person. Like, I just am. Don't really like drawing attention to myself or anything as far as that's concerned. And so, like, keeping this to myself, it wasn't like necessarily like I'm going to be secretive. It was just no, this is kind of like, this is my burden to carry. Burden to carry. Why, worry anyone else or whatever. Which isn't always the best approach to things, to be honest with you. Because the church family should be there to pray for you and uplift you and, all that. So we went to the Mayo Clinic, and I had even more testing done. We were there for 2 weeks, had, muscle biopsy. If you can think of it, I have had, it's a bunch. It's too much. So we were there 2 weeks. I had surgery, got on the plane the next day, made it just in time to see my sister graduate from college, which was great. We were so concerned we weren't going to be able to make it. And shout out to my sister. She did a lot during that time. So super grateful for her. Tori, Terry. But anyway, so, the neurologist there basically told me, she's like, you're basically a unicorn. She said there's nowhere in literature that has the symptoms you have, that is, she's like, we can't find anything to diagnose you with because it hasn't yet existed, basically. Like, patient zero right here. And I mean, tests were coming back. There were a lot of things that were like, well, it could be this, it could be that, and those were coming back negative. But I was having tests done, and they knew that something was wrong with my muscles. They knew something was wrong. They could not deny my pain. Because it, there's a test called an EMG where they stick a needle in various parts of your muscles, and they listen to the electrical current, and results were coming back. So I mean, it wasn't like I was making it up, which I did have some doctors accuse me of, but blood work and test results like that don't lie. So I mean, again, I'm still just really struggling with depression and anxiety, anxiety attacks, because I just don't know what's wrong with me. Like, why is this happening? It was a dark time in my life, but it was also a time that some pretty amazing things came out of. So, Sister Bonnie Marshall came and did like a little women's conference at our church, and one of the things she like spoke on was like depression and anxiety, and at that, the Lord so graciously delivered me from that depression and anxiety and restored my joy, a joy that I had been missing. And it was just an overwhelming experience in the altar. I don't have words for that. But it was just the relief getting up from praying, in the altar, and the Lord making it very clear to me that, you don't have to struggle with this anymore. I'm here. I've got you, So 2019 is kind of where we're at. Still in pain 24/7. At this point, it's every day, all day pain. I would go to bed in pain. I'd wake up in the middle of the night in pain. I hadn't had a good night's sleep. I mean, I don't even remember when. And I couldn't lift many things. They didn't really want me lifting anything over 15 to 20 pounds. I didn't hold babies because after learning my lesson, I was holding my cousin's newborn infant. And we were at a family thing, and I almost dropped him, which thankfully, again, my sister was right there. She, of course, she wanted to hold him too, so she took him very quickly, but she kind of knew, like, oh no. So, I mean, I just altogether just stopped, because one, for myself, but two, mainly was for the safety of, that infant. And so, I mean, I just quit doing it. So I didn't really, it was just one of those things, like, I just kind of was trying to learn how to manage everything going on my own. Because really, doctors couldn't help me. They, other than say, well, just, do what you're doing. I mean, we can't help you. Like, we don't know what's going on. We can run these tests. We can do these tests. Like, that's all they could do. That's all they could offer me. I started researching, like, diets and, like, foods that could help. I started trying to eat, like, inflammatory diets, and those things would kind of help with like the muscle stiffness and whatnot, but nothing took the pain away. Nothing even touched it. Didn't matter what it was. Pain pills didn't help. Nothing helped. Anyway. So 2019, we have the women's conference in Tioga at the campgrounds, and the Lord, he is so good. He really is. Throughout this entire process, like looking back, I could see where the Lord really had his hand in things, and the women's conference is definitely one of them. It was there. So they kind of had this thing where everybody got a big rock, or a good sized rock, and wrote what you wanted, or if you had a testimony, and it made like a heap of testimonies. And I wrote on that rock, I will be healed. Because before that, we had been praying, and I felt the Lord in such a strong and tangible way. From the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. I could just feel his presence, and I could feel him just while praying. I just felt such a peace. And just such a warm and bright feeling. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's the best way I can describe it. And I made a commitment that, because at this point I had been praying and praying and praying, like, God, please let me have some answers. And at that point I was like, okay, God, regardless of what happens, regardless of if I get answers or if I don't, I will worship you even if it hurts. And I meant that because lifting my arms caused such immense pain, like I can't describe. It hurt so bad. And if you've never dealt with any kind of chronic pain, you don't necessarily know what that's like. But if you have, you can kind of understand, like, sometimes you just can't describe it. When you're in pain all the time and there's nothing you can do about it, that kind of emotional level that goes with it also causes, pain. But the physical act of lifting my arms caused so much pain. Like, my hands would shake, my muscles would tremble, because my muscles just didn't want to do it. They didn't want to cooperate. And but I said I will worship you anyway. And gosh, the Lord just, there were times when I would lift my arms in worship and praise and pray, and regardless of the immense pain, and I could feel the Lord like step in, because even though I literally, like, my hands would be shaking uncontrollably, the presence of the Lord was there. I was worshiping anyway. It's like it was there, but it wasn't there, if that makes any sense. And there were so many times where the Lord was just so steadfast, and where he just, I would cry out, and I would just be like, God, I can't deal with this today. This is too much. Like, I need your peace. I need your presence. I need you, basically. And I would just feel his peace. I would feel just a knowing in my spirit, like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And, just to think about the fact, like, I would think about what Jesus endured on the cross. Like, he literally died. And so that kind of, like, I would just kind of think about that and just say, like, if he could endure that pain for my sins and literally be a living sacrifice, I can do this. Like, there's no comparison. I'm not dying for anybody. Like, he did that for me. I can get through today. So at the beginning of 2020, which was a terrible year for a lot of people, but for me, it was really a year of, it was incredible. So Brother Stroud, which is our pastor, we were doing like our New Year's Eve service, and this was, before COVID hit, and he was praying over me. I was praying in the altar, and Brother Stroud told me twice, he was like, the Lord is going to start answering prayers. He's going to, the prayers you've prayed in secret, you're going to start getting answers. And I was like, wow. And literally 2 days later, the Lord started. There was some stuff like with my job, like I was wanting to be full time but I was only part time at the time. My boss called me out of nowhere and said, "Hey, do you want to be full time?" Like, it was immediate. And then there were just so many prayers that I had forgotten that I prayed that just started being answered, and I was like, whoa. So we got engaged, and which, that was a big prayer answered. But so we got engaged in August, and then in November, let me back up a little bit. So I'd seen my cardiologist, and he just was so unhappy that I did not have answers. Like, at this point, this has been going on for 5 years. Like, he just was like, no, this is not right. Like, you should have some kind of answer. You should know something. So, and at this point, I had seen close to 50 doctors. And that's just the ones who I saw. I had sent because neurologists retire, and like I kept getting passed around. I couldn't find a good neurologist. And then I'd send my stuff to try and get in with a new neurologist, and they'd be like, "Sorry, we don't want to accept you as a patient. Your case is too hard." And I'm like, what? Like, I need some, because there were some pretty time sensitive stuff. Things that if I needed it, then they would, blood work would have to be done, and it was just a big mess. So, but I couldn't get into neurologist, so I'm like, well, you know what? It's in the Lord's hands. Whatever it is what it is. That's kind of my mentality. That was my mentality up at this point. So I had actually finally got into a neurologist who is a neuromuscular specialist, and he is amazing. And, but was 6 hours from where we lived, so you and I drove down.
This is the one me and you went down together, didn't we?
Yes, we.
Right.
Nathaniel, he didn't want me to go alone to New Orleans.
That's a 6 hour drive,
Yeah, and my mom and dad didn't really want me to either, so we went down. We got up really early that morning, drove down for my appointment, and it's really crazy because we go in for the appointment, and the neurologist was like, "Hey, I had seen another neurologist in that like in the same department that he was in, and he's like, "Oh yeah, how are you doing? I remember you from 5 years ago, and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. He's familiar with my case, yay."
That's the first.
Yeah, and so we went through. He said, "You know what?" He said, I have one more patient like you that I see, and he lives in Florida. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Like, there's somebody else. I hate that, but made me feel, a little bit better. And he's like, there's basically nothing we can do. We can't diagnose you with anything because you don't fit the parameters for some stuff. You don't meet every box. So he said, I hope you weren't looking for answers because there is no answer. And that was a very specific prayer I'd prayed at one point. I was like, God, even if the answer is no answer, I just want to know. But I never told anybody that. That was a prayer I'd prayed in secret that the Lord had answered.
You had basically wanted to know if anyone you see has no answers. You just want to know. Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, basically, like even if there was just no answer out there for what was going on, I wanted to know that there was no.
You needed to know if there's no answer.
Yeah,
Okay.
And I had already gotten okay with the fact that maybe I would never get answers, and that's the crazy thing. Like, I had become kind of content with where I was at, and the Lord was like, you know what? Here you go anyway. Like, even though you're okay with where you're at, this is something that you've prayed and you asked for. Here's the answer to that. So I was like, wow. I kind of left there, and
I was aggravated.
yeah, he was aggravated because this was
we drove 6 hours just to hear, can't help you.
But
basically.
That was the biggest stepping stone for me, basically. Like,
and you didn't tell me that. You were just kind of like,
yeah. Yeah. But,
at
this point, like, we talked. I had pretty much tried to transition to a plant-based diet because it seemed to help. And, we talked to him, and he was like, he's like, that's great. Keep doing that. Keep eating plant-based. And I told him about the not holding babies, and he was like, great, don't do that either. He said, you sound pretty smart. He said, it seems like you put up pretty good safeguards. Keep doing what you're doing. Well,
you think after 5 years, you kind of
basically
catch on with how you need to be living life,
Yeah, but I also had asked, because Nathaniel and I were getting ready to get married. I asked him, I was like, okay, so because I think what was happening with me was genetic, possibly, not 100% sure. So I was like, well, is this something that can be passed on to kids, possibly, in the future? And he was like, well, that's a great question. But he said, I don't really have the answer for that. It's a possibility. I explained, we were fixing to get married, and I straight up told him, I said, if this is something that can be passed on to a child, I won't have any children because I'm not going to take a chance at passing this on. I just won't do that. Not knowingly do something that would put somebody else literally in immense pain. And, because there are other ways to have kids. You can always adopt. And that's kind of where my head was at. And that's what I told him. And he was like, you have a great attitude about this. Whenever y'all get married, whenever you decide, you can see a geneticist and we can go from there to see if it would be a real possibility. So I was like, okay. So we left. Nathaniel and I got married in December of 20. When did we get married? 2020. Yeah. 2020. December 2020. So I forgot.
Pretty sad.
Yeah, it is.
Woman forgets in this scenario.
I do. I forget all the time. But so we, 2021 rolls around and all this, and I'm still, because I'm not 26 yet, I was still on my parents' insurance. So, and I have my own insurance, so that's like triple coverage, which is fabulous. And so I talked to Nathaniel, and I was like, even though we really don't want kids right now or whatever, it'd probably be smart to go ahead and go see a geneticist, because they're expensive. Like, it's expensive, and I've got 3 different insurance coverages, so we should be good. And up until this point, before anything, like, I had a heart procedure done in April of 2021. Everything I prayed about beforehand, and I made sure that I felt a peace from the Lord before I did it. Well, I was like, maybe it's a good idea, and Brother Stroud, he had preached a message about walking, where the Lord wants you to, and walking in is basically being in the God's will for your life. And I was praying and I was like, I just really felt like the Lord was saying, don't see the geneticist. Don't do it. Don't do it. And this was like probably around May or June. And I had told Nathaniel I was going to call and make an appointment. And then I came back and was like, no, we're not going to see a geneticist. And I was like, okay, basically, whenever the time comes, I just have faith that the Lord is going to work everything out. And I don't need science to tell me it, you know. And so then I really was just walking in faith and just really, I had kind of done a study on faith when like COVID and everything hit. And so that really kind of strengthened it strengthened my faith, you know, learning about faith. And so I just was like, you know what, no matter what happens, I'm just going to move in faith. Even because, you know, even though I did have concerns, like if we did have kids, how would I be able to hold them? Because at this point, I'm dropping everything in sight. Like, and I'm still in pain all the time. And so we get to July 2021, and Nathaniel and I have been, you know, helping with the youth. Our youth pastors had asked if we would, you know, before we got married, if that was something that we would, you know, wanted to do and to pray about. And so we are now involved in the youth ministry at our church. And so I took some kids to Forest Fest in Tioga, and which was an incredible experience. I mean, hundreds of teenagers dancing for hours, you know, in the presence of God was just incredible. And I'm right up there with them, you know, praising God, you know, with the youth I'd brought and the ones who were already down there. And I'm just praising God. I'm just so thankful for everything that He has done in my life. You know, just worshiping. And then the song, He healed my body. Oh my goodness.
He healed my body.
He touched my mind. Yeah, I have to sing it.
Saved me just in time.
I have to sing it in my head.
Praise His name.
Yeah, please stop. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, I have to sing it in my head. But anyway, the song popped into my head. He healed my body. He touched my mind. He saved me, and it was just in time. Just a little thought. And I was singing it out loud. They were singing a completely different song, but I just sang that. And then I went back to singing what they were singing, you know, what the worship band was leading in. And then 2 verses later, they start singing that. And immediately
They start singing that song.
And immediately when they sang out, He healed my body, I felt it. I have never felt so light in my entire life. It was like every ounce of my being was a feather, like as light as a feather. And then it like hit me that there was no more pain. In that moment, I was so overwhelmed with gratitude. I can't even, gratitude is not even the right word, I don't think. It's not strong enough. I began to laugh in the spirit and, just laughing uncontrollably. And for 15 minutes. And and then finally, I say compose myself. I couldn't compose myself. And, my sisters were over, probably about 5 feet away, and they're worshiping and doing their thing, and I can't even stop dancing, so I just kind of dance on over. And, I grabbed Tori, she's the next in line, and I was like, Tori, He healed me. And I'm crying, and my voice is pretty much gone, honestly, at this point. and like all of them around us, all like it just. Then we all broke into it again. They were dancing before. Well, it was dancing even harder then, and so it was just an incredible experience because I just had to share what the Lord had done. Like, I mean, you can't, when the Lord does something like that, you can't keep it in. You shouldn't keep it in. And so they were rejoicing with me, and I was like, I should go tell Brandon. He was kind of up on the stage. I could see him, and so I was like, you know what? I should go tell him. I got to tell him. Because, I mean, this was something that I know they had prayed for me before and everything. And so I kind of made my way down to where he was at and got his attention and told him, and he took off. I was like, what? Okay. And then next thing I know, he's pulling me up on stage with a microphone. And I was like, what? And before this, I would tell you, I would have been weak at the knees, about to keel over, because public speaking, I mean, in front of hundreds of people, like, that's a lot, and it would have killed me. Not figuratively, I would have been like dying on the side, like, no. But I had no nervousness, nothing. And I got up there, and Brandon was like, this is Andy, and I'm going to let her tell you what the Lord has done. And so I'm like, okay. So I just, I told her, I said, for 6 years, I've been in pain for 24/7. But after, I think I said after 30 minutes of dancing and worshiping the Lord, my God healed me. And that started everybody up again, which they never quit. But, and then I just kind of.
And nobody even really knew the details. Nobody needed it.
No, nobody needed details. And I'm crying. I mean, and it's crazy because I got a snippet of one of the ladies who was there with her kids. They were like, they heard somebody talking. They're like, wait a minute, that's Andy. And they got a snippet of me.
Yeah, they did get a snippet. They didn't get the whole thing.
No, but they got of me saying, my God healed me. It doesn't even sound like my voice. Like, it's just
you
crazy.
were hollering.
I was, like, and so I just kind of danced back on off stage. And, but I probably, for another probably hour before I felt the release. Nathaniel wasn't there. He had to work, so he wasn't with us.
I think you called me around midnight.
Yeah.
A little bit before midnight.
Because I found...
You stepped out. The service was still rocking.
Yeah, they were still going.
You'd stepped out just to call me and tell me that.
Yeah, because I finally felt the release of the Lord. I was like, I have to tell my husband. Like, this is huge. Like, and, so I stepped out and, we talked and,
I don't know how to process it. I was just kind of like, what?
Yeah.
That was awesome. Of course, me going to bed, I was still kind of not really in disbelief, just kind of being like, he actually healed you. Not that I didn't think he would, it's just, there's just sometimes you kind of think, this kind of, you never thought this day would ever come.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And then when it finally does, it's just kind of like, what?
Yeah.
So that's just where I was, and I think you got home around like 2 a.m.
I did.
You kind of woke me up when you got in the bed, and I could hear you just kind of crying a little bit, just saying, thank you, Jesus.
I couldn't stop.
I knew you couldn't get over it. And I was just, you've been dealing with that for 6 years.
Yeah.
And most of those years, actually, I would, matter of fact, say the entire time in the dark, not knowing what was going on. And then you finally got some of an answer just saying, we don't know what's going on. And there's no way of helping you. Now, you got somewhat of an answer there, but then, when you got content, you're just kind of like, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to worship you through this. That song is just a perfect song for it. It's actually called Look What the Lord Has Done. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
And you were praising him in advance.
Yeah.
You were praising him in advance for something that you didn't know when he was going to do it, if he was going to do it, and how he was going to do it. And then as soon as, that song was sang, it came out of your mouth,
Yeah.
he healed you. And to this day, feel no pain, right?
No.
This is a little bit, just under a year ago, but still.
Yeah, July will be a year this year, so July 2022 will be a year. But it was really, it was really crazy because, I mean, I'd already kind of in my mind been like, you know what? If the Lord chooses to heal me, in heaven, if I get that heavenly body, that kind of healing, then that's okay. Like, that's eternity. That's eternity. So I was already kind of like there in my mind, like, you know what? The Lord might not choose to heal me here on earth, but that's not going to stop me from following what
But he
he
will
has
heal
for
you.
my life. Yeah, I knew he would.
He'll heal you eventually. He's
Yeah.
gonna win.
Yeah.
Could be when you go into heaven.
Yeah. So, and it was really crazy because, I rounded up, the kids, they were still doing their thing. And then I rounded them up and we were getting to the car and it like hit me. I had blisters on the bottom of my feet. I had literally danced blisters onto the bottom of my feet. But I did not feel it when I was praising the Lord. When he took all the pain away in that moment, he took all the pain away.
Yeah.
So it was.
I mean, I've heard of stories of people that have issues with, certain pains in their bodies and stuff. You know how you said earlier, it's like it was there, but it wasn't there. When you worship and stuff, it's just kind of like, I've heard of other stories of people, having issues with shoulders and stuff, and they can't even raise their hand, but while they're worshiping in service, they can't feel it, but as soon as they get done with the service, it comes right back. It's just kind of like, Lord, just kind of, letting you have that moment and praising in advance.
Yeah.
And, when you finally got in that moment, it's like when reality set back in, it's just kind of like, well,
yeah,
destroyed my feet, but hey, I mean,
I didn't care.
It's gone, and it's been gone ever since.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And then
You've been kind of abusing it though, picking up way too much stuff.
well, I'm like, I can do it now.
Yeah.
But that night,
But you have no muscle mass now, which is
I know,
which was the problem.
So I gotta
that you
work
had to
back.
realize that.
But my dad had called me because I had my little sister with me, and oh my gosh, when I told him, he just started crying because he had expressed to me that as a parent it was so hard watching me go through that, and so
and not knowing how to help.
Yeah. So I know that, it wasn't just the Lord healing me. The Lord also took that burden from my dad and my mom, and when I cry talking about it, it's because we're here almost a year later, and I still am so overwhelmed by the goodness of God, because he didn't have to do anything. Like, he didn't have to do that, but he chose to heal me and to, give me this miraculous healing. And because he loves me, because he is a good God, and, he only wants what's best for us. But I also truly believe that he chose, I had also prayed, God, let this be used for your glory, whatever it is. And if you choose to heal me, I only want you to do it if it brings you the most glory that it can. And that's something I truly, truly desire through this, is to bring God glory. And I think he chose a pretty awesome moment to bring himself glory. And, it's just, I just am so overwhelmed still with how wonderful it is. And it was really crazy because, like, the next morning I woke up and my neck was stiff and sore and I had a crick in my neck. And I was like, man, that hurts. And I was like, nope, Satan, you are not fixing to come in here and try to make me doubt what happened yesterday. Ain't happening. I am claiming it and keeping it, and I'm going to tell everybody about it, and there's nothing you can do about it, basically. So, so that, I really have tried to do that. So I don't know. I just still, it is just overwhelming to think that the Lord, he loves me enough that he did that, and I don't know. It's just mind-boggling. Like, I can't comprehend comprehend it sometimes, because I mean, I lived with excruciating pain for years. I mean, years. And I know there are people out there who have pain for longer amounts of time, and I really can kind of understand what they go through, but I also know what is waiting on the other side, on the other side of that pain, and that is the kindness of the Lord, and his healing powers. So I am just so grateful, and I really strive to not take it for granted, because I feel like so oftentimes that we can take our miracles for granted, and I don't ever want to do that. And I want to continue to move forward in the path that God has for us, as a couple and myself individually, and take, this, I don't even know how to describe it, like
testimony.
Yeah, this testimony, I guess that's, yeah, and what he's done, and take this and move forward with it, and be able to share it with people. And so I mean, I can't just not talk about it. I just tell random people. So, and the stalker at the produce section at Walmart, I was telling him all about it one day. We got to talking, and I brought it up. I was like, you know what? Sounds like a good time to bring up what the Lord has done. Listen to how good the Lord is. And it's never to bring myself glory, but to always, bring him glory. And so that is my testimony, of that time in my life. There are other things the Lord has done in my life, but that's a different podcast. And but that is my miracle. That is God.
Yeah. Well, I got nothing to add to this. Really, it was just, you telling your amazing miracle, the long wait of 6 years, and then finally seeing the healing come to fruition is, adding more power to your testimony. Mm-hmm. And, God deserves all the glory, all the honor for that.
I do want to say this thought just popped into my head, sorry. I was an adult at a youth event, and I got healed, okay? And I just want for everybody listening, do not take for granted what kind of atmosphere can be created by young people when they choose to worship God. Because my miracle was birthed out of praise and worship, and that was in an atmosphere that was created by hundreds of teenagers worshiping God. I mean, seriously, when you're in that kind of atmosphere and the kind of abandon that comes with that kind of worship, and you have kids who are following where the Spirit directs, powerful things are going to happen. And oh man, if you get the opportunity to be a part of that, it doesn't matter how old you are, I feel like you should really take part of that. And not only that, in your own church, no matter your age, you should be striving to create an atmosphere of worship and an atmosphere where you're fully submitted to the Lord, and so miracles and wonders and signs can happen. And I think that's really important, especially for the times we're in at the moment. I feel like that is something that should be ever present and on the forefront of our minds.